what's new with Chromebooks. Obviously, it's one of our most important tools that we utilize for learning here. What happens at the beginning of next year? Next year, 6th graders will be getting and exchanging in their current Chromebook for a new Chromebook. And that will happen during the first or second week of school. So there is no Chromebook rollout like you've had in the past where they're just going to bring it in the first couple weeks. We will be doing kind of a gradual exchange so then they have those in their hand. Chromebooks should be in working order with normal wear and tear. Obviously, major damage or lost chargers will be covered using either the student insurance or will be the responsibilities of families. So especially, start early, trying to find a lot of those cords and things. I know even now, kids are coming up, I don't know where my cord is. Start looking now, and hopefully you can find it somewhere. And again, just want to make sure that, remember, insurance is available. We witness on a daily basis how 6th, 7th, and 8th graders sometimes handle their Chromebooks. Sometimes they're just carrying them like this, or they're throwing their backpacks where think through it, but obviously we're always telling them, take care, those are worth money, you need to be careful, but for you, make sure, take care of that with the insurance. There's a maximum of 3 incidents that are covered if you purchase a Chromebook protection plan in May. Coverage starts immediately and continues until the school starts again in the fall of 2018. So if you purchase in the May of 2017, that means you get 16 months of protection plan coverage for $25. So you can always go to our website, look at the Connection website in order to sign up for that insurance. We tend to get a lot of questions about math, and part of that is we have 4 really different sequences that kids have for math here in 6th grade. How that is based on is number 1 is really comes down to what is the math class that they're taking in 5th grade. That's our number 1 priority that we look at. And with that, how did they progress through those standards? We want kids to be successful in math, so we take a good look at not only what class did they take, but how well did they progress through those standards during 5th grade, because we want to set them up for success here at the middle school. And then also, we do take into effect, we look at some of their assessment scores, whether that's the MCAs or the MAP, because we want to make sure that we're doing what we need to do for them to be successful. And what we have here is, looking at it, we offer 6th grade Algebra 1, and then we also have kind of 3 different paths for pre-algebra. And part of it, and I know we have one of the math teachers here is going to kind of talk through that a little bit, is we really want to look at the pacing. There's some kids, we want them to have a strong foundation in pre-algebra, ready for algebra, and sometimes kids just need a little bit more time in order to really understand the skills in order to be successful in the future. So with that, I'm going to have Dana Coleman talk a little bit about those levels.
What do I do? Okay, there we go. So first of all, our math wing, if you happen to walk around after this, our math wing, like if you way. Okay, and all 6 of our math teachers are down that hallway. So, I mean, they're not here tonight, sorry, but we're here during the day. So one of the enjoyable parts about working with the math department here at East is we get to see the kids, if we have them as 6th graders, or the 8th grade teachers get to see them as 6th graders, and so they're always down there. And then just to tag along on that WIN speech, WIN has been fantastic for the math department because basically we pull kids in when they don't have a clue what the heck's going on, okay? Which in the world of math, that happens quite a bit for some kids. So when your kid comes to 6th grade next year and they start saying, hey, my math teacher keeps locking me into my WIN session, well, that's because we're trying to help them with their math, or maybe they need to make up a test or redo a test, or maybe they're just clueless, or whatever the case is, okay? So we're trying to help them. So if they continue to come home and say, hey, my math teacher keeps locking me into WIN, that's a good thing, okay? Because we can lock them in, and we always just, basically give them the option of getting out of it by doing a little bit better in math. So, if you, and this, page 12, because most of you can't see. 12 has this, what does it keep me? this way? This way? Right here, don't move? Okay. Can I move my head? Oh, I can't. That's really weird. Okay, now I can see the top row, so... Yeah. So, we're going to try this. There we go. So, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and then I think that says Trigonometry over there. I can't read it. But, top row, most of your kids are not going to be in that row, okay? These are high flyers. These are kids. I mean, you think about it, most of us did not take Algebra 1 as a 6th grader, okay? We did not take Algebra as a 6th grader. A lot of you are in my world. We're around the same age, and we took pre-algebra as either an 8th grader or a 9th grader. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. But I mean, and I'm not joking. Okay. So, the second row, the pre-algebra 1, or I'm sorry, pre-algebra and algebra and geometry and algebra 2, that's called our 1.0 track. So 1.0 basically means that in 1 year you're going to get through the pre-algebra standards, and in 1 year you're going to get through the algebra standards, and in 1 year you're going to get through the geometry standards. So if you guys, a lot of you are like me, you kind of want to know, well, are those kids the grade level kids, the not grade level, I've got 3 kids that went through middle school. I've been here, done this. And those kids are a grade level ahead is what you should really think of, okay? If they're taking pre-algebra, algebra, geometry, and algebra 2, if they're on that course, they're kind of a grade level ahead, okay? The 1.5, which is our third row down, that's where the vast majority of our kids fit, okay? And, so that's called pre-algebra 1.5 and algebra 1.5. It's because we used to have, to give you a little history, we used to have a course called Math 6, then we had a course called pre-algebra, and we found that Math 6 and pre-algebra had a ridiculous amount of overlap between the 2 courses, and it was really boring for kids. So what we've done is we've taken the pre-algebra standards, the algebra standards, split them up into 1.5 year courses. So basically, I've got a ton of kids that I teach that are in pre-algebra 1.5 this year. So then what they'll do is they'll finish up the first part of 7th grade. They'll finish up, I teach 6th graders this year. Well, every year. And they will finish up the second part of pre-algebra next year, the standards. Then they'll start their algebra standards. It's not like they switch courses or switch teachers. But does that kind of make sense? A little bit? And so basically when they get done with 8th grade, they're going to be done with their algebra standards. That pathway, the third row down. And then we have the 4th row down is pre-algebra 2.0 and algebra 2.0. So we're going to take 2 years to get through the pre-algebra standards. We have some kids that they can't get the standards unless they spend a decent amount of time on them. And honestly, I'll give you my little feedback on being a math teacher and being a dad of 3 kids who have gone through math. If your kid is being rushed through math, they're going to hit a wall when they get to algebra 2. Algebra 2 is the spot where it just, so this whole, push for acceleration, our deal here at East, and I work with great colleagues, we want to put the kid in the spot where they belong, okay? And we just had a semester end here, and we made some changes. Some kids moved. I just got a couple kids into my class that weren't in my class, and that's because it wasn't the right fit for them. Okay, so the district talks a lot about personalized learning, and for us as teachers, we're always talking about, hey, this kid isn't challenged enough. Or, hey, this stuff is flying way too fast for this kid. So I know in elementary school they do a lot of flex grouping, right? They're constantly like moving around. We don't necessarily do that because it just doesn't work with a middle school schedule because they're going everywhere. But we do move them around. And so I would just encourage you to contact your math teacher if you don't feel your kid is placed correctly. To be honest with you, what Mr. Gilbert said, the placement process is fantastic because we have very few kids that we move around. They're put in the right spot for the most part, but there's some kids that we miss.
And a lot of with the placement, some of you may get phone calls from me this summer because I know you know your kids best, and sometimes when I look at assessment scores, and I look at standard scores, and I look at their coursework and things like that, I want to make the best decision, for your child. So you may receive a phone call from me this summer, and really it's all about, I want kids to be successful. I want them to feel confident, and you know what? Sometimes kids need just a little bit more time in order to understand those standards because, as Dana said, we want kids to be successful at the next level, and they've noticed, especially algebra 2, when how we were doing things, they were struggling, and that's why we made those necessary changes. A couple things, and I know it's hard to read up there, but when you look at the registration guide that's sent home, when you look over here, the high school courses start with geometry. So if you're in, let's say that if you have Algebra 1 in 6th grade, well, you start high school math in 7th grade. And I know someone asked, high school math courses, do they count towards the GPA? Yes, they count for high school credit and also in the GPA. So that's something that you should be aware of that. Also, the teachers let the kids know about that too. Going on to the next slide, we don't have to spend too much time on this, but I know especially when you start looking, well, where do they end up going once they get to the high school? And I know we do include that in the middle sequence that you can also look at the next page and see, well, where does that bring them in classes when they're in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade? So all of it is in here, but obviously if you have questions, always feel free to talk after, but also at the same time, summer or, coming up to it, don't hesitate to call because we can certainly answer any of those questions. I know another big part of our program is the Discover and Endeavor, and I is going to spend a little bit of time talking about that.